Hello everybody, welcome to the Wine with Jimmy channel. I'm your host, Jimmy Smith. Delighted that you have stopped by on this educational channel for all things vinous. If you want to get to grips and know a certain topic, certain region, grape variety, we have it here for you. Here we've got a series for the diploma, the WSET level 4. This is the D3 section for Spain on Castilla y Leon. So we are here on a 5-part series for Spain's largest autonomous region. And we are going into series 4 here to Toro, which is this smaller region on the Duero River towards the real western point of Castilla y Leon. We split Toro into 3 videos. This video is free content available for everyone here on the world of YouTube with an introduction, history, climate, and grape growing. The further parts, that's 2 and 3, are only available as exclusive content on my e-learning portal. Okay, let's start to look at the area called Toro. First of all, it's important to understand where we are looking. On the left-hand side is a picture of the Iberian Peninsula. So Portugal, because we're not tackling that in this area, has been sort of faded out, but we have some of the key wine regions of Spain. But you'll notice here, Ribera del Duero, Rueda, and then we come to this area here, which is Toro. So here we are on the Duero River, going close to the Portuguese border, and here is the region of Toro, actually highlighted on red closer on the right-hand side in the provinces of Valladolid, a little bit in Salamanca, and into Zamora. There is Toro, which sits on the Duero River, with most of the vineyards, of course, on the southern side, or on what we'd say the left bank of the Duero River. So that's getting our whereabouts here. We have approximately 5,500 hectares of vines in this area. So, of course, it makes it a fairly prominent area. It's got a fair significant amount of wine in play. The next thing to note is a little bit around the name of Toro. So, of course, it's quite specific. Toro, T-O-R-O, is a name from this Celtic-Iberic sculpture of a bull. You'll see this. So the Celtic-Iberic tribe, which is one of those tribes that predate things like the Phoenicians, the Greeks, and the Romans, and the Carthaginians. And they called this, the sculptor, the Celtic-Iberian sculptor of a bull. So it's why it takes its name from this area. I thought it'd be interesting to throw in the etymology for you there. Also, we have a little bit around, there's a very famous bodega here, which is Bodegas Numancia. I'll talk a lot about that throughout the next 3 videos. It's important to link this for its etymology as well. In 133-134 BC, the residents of the ancient city of Numancia, resisted the Roman invaders, with some of those, when eventually it became all too much, actually committed suicide rather than being captured and probably executed by the Romans. The Romans laid siege to Numancia for a number of time, and it got quite desperate. Eventually, the people became starving inside. They resorted to cannibalism, but eventually, this picture is supposedly depicting those that are committing suicide rather than let the Romans, of course, capture them at that time. So this sort of noble heritage echoes the Bodegas Numancia, and specifically in Numancia, Bodegas Numancia's terroir. It has hardy and resistant vines, which have been able to endure the region's extreme climatic conditions. That's those harsh winters and very, very hot summers, as well as things like phylloxera because of the sandy soil. So you could say it is a very resistant area, and that is linking it to those early days. I think it's kind of written into the stars for them. A little bit more history here for you as well. Toro's wine is widely documented as having been a favorite of Spanish royal families and nobility for centuries. It was also, as it turns out, the tipple of choice for Christopher Columbus and his crew on their epic journey to the Americas, of course, in 1492, largely because the influential confessor to Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand, Columbus's patrons, by the way, was a local boy made good. So it was included, therefore, on the inventory on the Pinta, which was Columbus's ship. So a little bit about the climatic conditions here. So if you have already watched the series on Ribera del Duero and Rueda, which precede this series, you will have similarities in terms of the climatic conditions. It is continental here. Typically, we go down to similar to what Rueda was. Winters can go down to -10 degrees Celsius and up to about 37, 38 degrees Celsius in the summer. So you have that hot, dry summers, very, very cold winters. But both Rueda and Toro are just a little bit warmer in winter than Ribera del Duero, and just a little bit, a little less warmer in summer than Ribera. So it's a little less continental in Toro and Rueda. Very low rainfall, somewhere between 350 and 400 millimeters. It's some of the lowest in Castilla y Leon. And we will find there can be issues with spring frosts in this area. More on the topography and geology. So vineyards here lie at about 650 to 825 meters, with actually some of the higher altitude sites being towards the west of the area. So we are generally looking then at vineyards having a similar altitude to Rueda, which sits just to the east, but less than Ribera del Duero. The geology here, so we have soils which are sandy, clay, and limestone, and there are many pre-phylloxera vines in Toro, and that's because of that level of sand that we find here. So we know really that there's a lot of real old vines. You see it in this picture just here. So there's a real attraction for quality focus producers in this region. And it's becoming an area which is a bit of a kind of a paradise for old vine lovers. Of the total vineyard area in the DO, which is about 5,600 hectares, 1,200 are planted with bush vines which are over 50 years old. And there's even a small amount that actually have their origins of plantation back to between 1850 and 1880. So you're talking about, whatever that is, about 140, 160 years old. Now, we know that's because of the sandy soils here. In fact, we also know that around 50% of Toro's vineyards are planted on their own rootstocks, which is a really significant number for any region. Okay, further things here as well. We know that Toro has a warm growing season. It has really intensive sunlight, more so than we'll find from places like Rueda, for example. And we also have low yields. All of these contribute to producing wines that are typically very deep in color, full-bodied, and often with exceptionally high alcohols. You'll find high tannins and then very dark fruit characteristics. But because of the continentality here, we also do find high acidities due to those cold nights. Now, because of this, wines can come into the winery, or grapes coming into the winery, with potential alcohols which are too high. So site selection can be very important, with cooler sites providing slower ripening, and they're going to be found at the areas with higher altitude, typically towards the west of the region. So here I've got the map actually up here, and Sanzoles, and also down towards Argilio as well, down in this area. You find some sort of mountain zones. That's where we're sneaking up to around 800 meters, and that's where we're going to have some of those cooler sites. Also, one could select sites which are not south facing as terms of aspect. So northernly aspect sites would also help for less ripeness and higher acidities. One must be careful of this because, in fact, the Consejo Regulador of Toro actually has an up limit of 15%. You cannot produce wines above 15% alcohol, but they certainly will exist, of course. And low density plantations. So we know rainfall here is low. We, of course, said in the late 300 millimeters per year. Irrigation is not permitted from June until after harvest, but can be for the early part, the establishment part of the year, so spring. And to manage the limited water, many vineyards are planted at low density with a low number of bunches per vine. And in fact, this equates to the maximum permitted density of vines of being somewhere around 2,700 per hectare, which of course is exceptionally low. Bush vines, of course, do make up the majority of plantations in the area. Another picture there from Bodegas Numancia. Okay, so that brings me to a conclusion for this first video. Next video goes into the key detail of the major grape variety here, which is Tempranillo, but locally called Tinta de Toro. So we'll talk through that in all of its glory, and then part 3 will follow on from that. If you do have any comments, questions, or concerns, you can get in touch. You can do so by commenting on this video below. Make sure you click like, you click subscribe as well whilst you are down there. And if you do find yourself in the United Kingdom, please come and say hi. You can come and see me at one of my establishments for a class, a glass, or more likely a bottle. I've been Jimmy Smith. Ciao for now. Bye-bye.